RadioNext.tv on the Cool Groove site. It is that time again, Wednesday morning, right before the Thanksgiving Day holiday. And we are in studio today, my friend, my brother, Dr. Mark Eckel.
Yes,
we
sir.
are doing family up in here today, big fella. What's happening, man?
Oh, it's been a great time. We've got our folks come in last night with the grandkids, you know. This is Samuel and Chelsea are here with us today. Say hello, guys.
Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
Awesome, man. You know, I told you, I'm meeting my family for the first time today, but it's beautiful, and we're going to have a great show, and we're just going to really freestyle today. Normally, we are bringing you information about Comenius Institute and how we develop the young people's mind when they go away to college for the first time and are just needing to be instilled with values and principles based off of the book of Proverbs. But today, we're going to just celebrate family. Mark, talk about it, man. You're in here glowing today. I'm going to put a picture out there, and I'm going to have to put turn the bright down. Here, man.
Well, Comenius, just to give everybody the high five on Comenius, John Amos Comenius, the great Moravian pastor from the 17th century, who actually believed that women should be educated. This is a very valuable man who actually was the progenitor, the beginning of something called the Encyclopedia. And we meet with IUPUI students every week to talk about how Proverbs relates to everyday life and their academics and intellectual questions. And we got our family in here today. We're just going to have some fun.
And I know you've got some scripture, even though this is an unscripted show today about Proverbs and family. I'm sure
that's right.
It will come out in the preacher. But just glad to have you guys in studio today. And we're going to come back after we get down with some of these nice sounds that we do each and every Wednesday. Is Mom out there listening?
Yes, she is.
What's up, Mom? I'm getting ready to groove it up for you. This is Woof and Woof Radio on the Cool Groove site at RadioNext.tv. Yes, we are back. Dr. Mark butt dancing. And the daughter's up here showing out. We are back. Woof and Woof Radio on the Cool Groove site. Dr. Mark, it's your show today.
Yeah, man.
It's family.
Yeah, we're letting it fly. I thought it was really cool. You know, we walk in here with Samuel and Chelsea, and the first thing you're on the phone and you say, hey, you know, I got to go. I got to say hello to my family. So they're just as much your family as mine, man.
I think if we all, I'm telling you, and I told you last week, I was watching the sports all weekend, and they kept running this poem Maya Angelou had, and she kept saying, we are more alike than we are unalike. And I kept hearing this poem, and it kept resonating. I said, what are we all just so in outrage for, just when we are so much more alike than we're unalike. So embracing and loving, and I feel like I know your daughter and your son-in-law already anyway, and your mom anyway, because the spirit, I mean, this is just a physical thing right here, but the spirit of who you are is going to be transparent through everything and everybody that's around you.
Absolutely.
So.
And it's really interesting if you think about how you use your language for things. You know, if you use the language family for a situation where you and I haven't met, but we're using the language family, and instantly that brings down barriers. Or like we teach our 4-year-old daughter, who's that? She'll say, who's that person on the sidewalk? I don't know, but they're our neighbor. They live in our town. They're our neighbor. Or the people that come and attend our church. Those are part of our church family. You know, it's kind of the language you use is helpful or unhelpful.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the beautiful daughter of Mark Eckel. Please just introduce yourself and just tell them a little bit about you being the daughter of Mark.
Being the daughter of Mark Eckel. I'm Chelsea, married to Sam over here. And being the daughter of Mark means I was brought up to ask questions and think about what's being presented to me. And part of being Dad's daughter was that there was encouragement in those things, encouragement of thoughts and ideas, and never discouragement. So I've always got a thought about something.
Awesome. And your husband, Sam, is over here. Sam, please introduce yourself to this audience here at RadioNext.tv.
Yeah, my name's Sam Andries. Grew up in Northwest Ohio. Went to college in Chicago. Met this lovely lady. Actually, my father-in-law, Mark Eckel, was a professor at the college that I went to, And I think that if I had had him as, I never had him as a professor, but if I had had him, I think I would have been intimidated to approach his daughter,
like the coach's
yeah,
daughter.
Yeah, exactly. So my friends who had Dr. Eckel would say, "Oh, you're dating Dr. Eckel's daughter?" So yeah. No, I'm a pastor up in Northwest Ohio in a town called Defiance, named after Fort Defiance, King's Cross Church. Our people, and so we've been there about 3 years. We planted the church about 3 years ago, and so I've been a pastor 3 years. Church has been around 3 years, and we're just living the simple rural life, and we're loving it. Loving it.
Dr. Mark, I'm gonna let you take this on, and you start asking questions. But I always mention, if the seed is pure, the lump is pure, and if the lump is pure, the branches are pure. Well, I didn't say that.
Yeah.
But in seriousness, you can just see the results of. When you put down a good foundation, good things grow.
Yeah, absolutely. I love these guys. They're wonderful people, and the wonderful thing about family, especially in our case here, is that your children become your friends. That's, I think, a wonderful thing. I was kind of surprised, Chelsea, you didn't say anything about being a theologian. That was, you've got the whole theology thing going on there as well, and of course, Sam graduated with a degree in theology, so. Why don't you guys talk about theology just a little bit and how important that is in your life and your lifestyle?
Well, it's interesting that you would say that because in the mornings we teach Marilyn, our 4-year-old, and we have a 10-month-old, Isaiah Bruce. We read scripture in the morning, and there's a book that we've started reading to her. It's called Theology, which is, the subtitle is Ancient Truths Ever New. So really all the book does is bring up ideas from Scripture or truths about the Lord and for everyday conversation. And I think, we use the word theology in somewhat everyday life, but I think in having a kid, you start to just kind of what we're doing here, offbeat, just kind of bring things up, bring truths up, and I think that's what you did for us when we were kids. Bring these truths up in everyday conversation, so that it's not a scary word. Theology isn't a scary word. You're trained to be a theologian, but to tell that to people in Defiance, Ohio, who have not been trained that way. Hey, you're a theologian. They'll be like, well, I don't know. I don't know about that.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about that, Sam? How does theology work out in real life? I mean, talking with people on a regular basis, how does that flesh out for you, as a pastor?
Well, I think what comes to mind is that famous quote by A.W. Tozer, what comes into your mind when you think about God is the most important thing about you. Mm. And we all have thoughts about God, and whether or not we're Bible-believing Christian or whatever faith background we have, or the ever-growing group of nuns, N-O-N-E-S, people who claim no religious affiliation. They have thoughts about God. They just tend to avoid it, and I respect that. But it's, as you often say, Dad, it's putting the cookies on the bottom shelf. It's helping people to see that theology is lofty and transcendent, yet God has condescended, and He has come to us in Christ. The Word made flesh and dwelt among us. And so, putting the cookies on the bottom shelf for people, helping them understand that the Lord cares about the everyday details of life. And that's what pastoral ministry is. I mean, it's preaching the Word, and then it's also sitting and listening to people and trying to apply it in more the more complicated situations of life.
Sure. So, one of the things that strikes me when I hear you guys talk about the cookies in the bottom shelf and making this real simple is people who are listening to me might find this kind of funny, but it reminds me of Louis C.K., the great comedian. And Louis C.K. has this great bit that he does. If you've not seen it on YouTube, run over to your computer and check this out. He talks about flying from New York to Los Angeles taking 5 hours. He says it used to take 30 years. By the time you get to California, he says, you're with a whole new group of people. So he's talking about, young people who complain about air travel today. You hear people say in a whiny voice, I had to wait 20 minutes to board the plane. And CK says, oh, really? You're sitting in a chair in the sky, flying through the air, 6 miles above the earth. Is your cell phone too slow? It's going to space. Can you give it a second? I mean, this is just hilarious stuff. But, Louis C.K., that's all theology right there. Everything that we talk about, everything that we do is theological. And in this case, he's talking about gratitude. And he's talking about the thanklessness of people. And so our show today is really about family. It's about gratitude. It's about being thankful for what we have. The emphasis of really our lives as Christians is huge. And so I'm just really happy that I get to share that with you guys today and the whole gratitude, thankfulness bit.
Oh, that was a huge part of, talk about family and growing up, that you and Mom instilled in us, thanking others for, just, hey, hand me the potatoes, thank you, that kind of, it starts even there.
Foreshadowing for later today.
Yes, right.
That's right.
Potatoes. But how that your gratitude in small things is an implication of your gratitude for big things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
And that's hard to teach. Marilyn, again, being 4 years old, it is. Our nature is not, it's not natural to be thankful for things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you say, Marilyn? I just handed you what you asked me for. What do you say? Oh, thanks, Mom. Sometimes she remembers, sometimes she doesn't, but that's hard to instill. We're fighting unthankful hearts that we were born with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the bottom line, really, for us in thankfulness, all of our lives rests on two things. It rests on gratitude because we give thanks to somebody outside of ourselves. It also rests on discipline because we have responsibility within ourselves. And HB, really, that's where it all stands for us. We're going to talk more about this, obviously, in the next couple of hours. But that's where we're going today.
Just one thing before, and listening, I wonder, is gratitude like a culture? When we were growing up, and we talk about all the time, as a 58-year-old man, everyone was pretty much raised with a spiritual background. You got up, you went to church, you knew about Jesus, even if you didn't serve him, you knew. So the culture invited understanding gratitude, but now with a society where there are some people that have no moral compass, they have no root of Jesus or a power greater than themselves in their life, and then you have young people like your daughter. I wonder how much it manifests itself, like in the grade schools and the whatever, without it being that like-minded culture of thankfulness, togetherness, or whatever. When you have one side that is so out of touch.
Well, when you take away a transcendent figure in life, taking away God from school or from the family, and people aren't talking about the need to be thankful or that we are small. Now culture is like, well, I'm my own individual person. I'm everything.
Yeah.
I just saw something like I am the dictator of my body. That kind of mindset. You're not going to be as grateful for things because you think you're it.
You're God.
Yeah, you're God. So what is there to be thankful for? Anything you do is awesome. And so when you have no idea of your finiteness, then what is there to be thankful for? You're it.
Well, that's segue stuff there.
That's
Speaking of awesome, because really, we serve an awesome God, and I just wish more people understood we have to serve Him instead of thinking He serves us. We're going to come right back. It's Family Day at Warp and Woof Radio. Mark Echo with the family in the house. We're going to have Mom calling in here in about the next 5 or 6 minutes. So you listen to this, and maybe you'll understand what we're doing here today. You're listening to Cool Group Radio. RadioNext.tv on the Cool Group site. We're back walking the Woof on the radio here at the Cool Group site. Dr. Mark Echo, Chelsea, and Sam Andrews in the house right now. I'm doing Family Day on the Cool Group site. I am loving this.
Yeah,
man.
This is good.
Yeah,
man. Letting it flow.
Just all proud, shoulders all up, and chest poked out. Look at you, Dad. I see you. Good stuff, though, man. But beautiful, beautiful. Daughter and son-in-law in studio right now. We're going to be hearing from some other family members here shortly.
Right. Yeah.
So go away with it, man.
Yeah. So we really had just kind of introduce the concept of gratitude here in this last segment, talking about Louis C.K. and the ingratitude that we have a tendency to have. And so let's talk about that a little bit more. How do you guys see this being played out in the culture in which you live in, just in terms of maybe the family dynamics or the church or the town that you live in? How do you see people responding to each other? Do you see manners and gratitude and thankfulness taking place where you live?
Man.
Go ahead. Jump in there.
Yeah. I think, as Chelsea was saying earlier, just with our daughter, our default mode, unfortunately, is often complaints rather than gratitude and rather than thankfulness. Yeah, so if gratitude is kind of what's inside of you, thankfulness is what comes out of your mouth, and if there's complaints inside your heart, then that's what comes out of your mouth as well. And I think, even in myself, I see that more often than I want to, but I see that in our all around in our culture. Just rather than being grateful and thankful, we complain and speak those complaints, and that's we have even in our town. Some Facebook pages about our town, and people are trying to promote what's good and be thankful on these pages, and then that's how the page starts, but it continues with people complaining about this happening, or why is the government doing this, or why are we spending money on that, and I appreciate what you guys are doing here in celebrating the good of what's going on in Indianapolis, because celebrating and speaking out the good is contagious, just like complaint is contagious as well. And so, yeah, this has inspired some thoughts of what we could potentially do in our town.
Yeah. Well, I do think it comes back to what we were talking about before, that our culture is bent towards discussing what we deserve, and that we deserve everything. That down to every little girl and boy, you deserve everything, your dreams, any desire that you have, you should just go after it. The world is yours. That does not instill gratitude. Instead, what Scripture teaches us is that nothing is ours and everything is God's. And so any good thing that we experience is a gift of grace. Whether we want to notice that or not, everything is a gift from the Lord. And when the Lord opens our eyes to give us faith to that truth, I think, that's what can start the slow change of turning your heart from complaint to gratitude.
And it really does take a transformational element. I mean, this is, like you guys have well said, this isn't something that's resident within us already. I mean, we don't normally think this way.
No.
Yeah.
And it is hard. I mean, gosh. The first thing that can come to your mind in the morning can be not, I'm so thankful to be alive, or I'm thankful for my family that I get to wake up to. No, it's usually, all right, another day. I got to feed the kids breakfast, or I got to, who knows, my first thoughts in the morning are rarely one of praise and gratitude.
Well, you've been woken up 6 times in the night by a 10-month-old. So.
Yeah, who should be sleeping through the night by now.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we have some a special guest here joining us from Denver, Colorado, and her name is Virginia Eckel.
Aww.
Good morning, Mom.
Good morning, honey.
It's good to hear your voice today. Thanks for calling in.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Good morning, Grandma.
Hey, Grandma.
Good morning, Chelsea. I love you, honey.
I love you too.
And Sam is over here.
Good morning, Grandma. I love you.
Good morning. I love you too, sweetie.
This is just an all-family, all-the-time thing. We're just literally doing this thing off the cuff, as you well said, Mom. So tell us something about your thankfulness this morning, so everybody listening can hear your words of gratitude today.
Oh, thank you. Well, probably the first thing that I would put on my list is my thankfulness for my salvation and for my relationship with the Lord. Really big, really important. It is my life, And secondly, for the wonderful family that he's given me. I'm so grateful for my children and my grandchildren and now my great-grandchildren. So those are big, really big. That is most important for me.
Yeah, well, that's great, Mom. And somebody else from your family just walked in, wants to say hello.
Hey, Mom, what's going on, lady?
It's HB, Mom.
Oh, HG, I could hardly hear you. Oh, I'm so grateful that you said good morning because I really need to speak to you sometime. You make my heart smile.
Aww.
And you make mine as well, and I just love the pollination that you've given this earth here. You know, really, you raised a great son and some great grandchildren, and just love everything about Virginia Echo.
Aw.
Thank you so much, HB. I am really grateful for your place in Mark's life and for your friendship that's developed over these months. But truly, when you look at Mark and Robin and Larry and Jan and my grandchildren, etc., you see a product of God's grace. That is who they are.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I just want to say happy Thanksgiving from the bottom of my heart to you.
Thank you, and to you as well.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say I'm thankful for you, Grandma, because as we've been talking about, instilling a worldview of gratitude, I see you being a big part of that in my life and helping me cultivate a thankfulness for what I've been given. So thank you, Grandma.
Thank you, honey. That's really neat. You are my only granddaughter, and so it just makes my heart smile, too, to talk with you and to listen to you say such lovely things. But I'm grateful for you, honey. You make a real difference in the lives of your family and in my life, too, just because you're such a sweetie and we connect so well.
Yeah, I think, it's... you've shown me the importance of listening well and of that everyone has a story that is worth listening to and deserves our compassion, and being friends with you gives me a whole lot of empathy and sympathy for lots of people that have come into my life. So I'd say we have a good thing going.
There you go,
Mom.
Mom.
Thank you. Yes, I agree.
There you go, Mom. Thanks so much for calling in today. We're really grateful to hear your voice.
You're welcome, and thank you for allowing me to do that, and have a wonderful rest of the program, and a happy Thanksgiving to all of you.
Great, and happy
Take care, sweetie.
Thanksgiving to you as well, Mom.
Thank you. I love you, honey. Bye-bye.
Okay, we're going to go. Tito, would you bring the tissue? And we're going to come back. No, man, I just love that lady. And, this is the beautiful and the essence of when you just open up your heart to one another, what can happen.
That's right.
When I say it, I mean it from my heart, man. The spirit of family is right in this room and was on that cell phone, and that's what we can do if we work at it.
That's
we have
right.
to work at it. We're going to come right back. Warp and Woof Radio, serving family and thanks here on the big show today. Mark, Echo, Chelsea, Sam will be back. More surprises, more family. This is Warp and Woof Radio on the Cool Bruce. RadioNext.tv, you're listening to Warp and Woof Radio. Dr. Mark Eckel each week bringing you all the great information provided by Comenius Institute. Give them one more shout out about Comenius.
Yeah.
We're going back into Family Day on this Thanksgiving Day. Wednesday. Loving this, man.
This is a good thing. Yeah, so let me go back to Warp and Woof for just a second and say Warp and Woof are the vertical horizontal threads that make up fabric. From a Christian point of view, Colossians 1:17, by him are all things held together. And so the whole concept behind Comenius is the idea that the wholeness that we want and desire, the completion in life, we find because of what Jesus did on the cross for us. And the celebration of our family today is just one wonderful part of that. And we're really glad to talk about the concepts of gratitude and thankfulness and family, and really happy to have Sam and his wife Chelsea, who happens to be my daughter, here on the program. So thanks, guys, for being here today, and thank you for participating.
this is really fun. I see why you do this every week.
I told you guys, HB and I, man, we roll up in here. This is a good time.
Get the cool little tunes going in between. Get your spirits up, man.
It's really good. It's a good thing. So let's talk a little bit more about the family gratitude, thankfulness thing. You guys talked a few moments ago about maybe the kinds of things that could happen in a small town like y'all live in Defiance, Ohio. How do you think that this is going to be something that you can teach? Is this something that you kind of live in front of other people? Are these questions that you ask of them? How do you promote thankfulness in a community, whether it be in your church or in the community at large?
I think that's a great question.
How do you go about doing it? Yeah, the problem,
Yes.
of course, is actually putting it into practice.
Yes. I am learning, I think Sam and I both are learning just how slowly change happens in all of us, and to set expectations differently accordingly. I mean, you think about my own life and how long it takes me to come around to certain ideas, so I shouldn't expect people to change at drop of a hat. So I think that does, like you suggested, mean living out gratitude in front of others. I think in marriage that's really important, showing people how to be grateful for your spouse and treating them with respect and talking about them with respect when they're not there, talking them up and what wonderful things that they do for you. Like, for instance, I'm really thankful for how Sam does dishes, changes diapers, how he pushes me to think about things that I would really rather not think about, because I'm prone to laziness. Talking about those kinds of things with others for them to see what gratitude looks like in marriage, or to be grateful to a person who is showing ingratitude in a moment. Hey, I'm thankful for you in this way, or I see this really neat thing that God is doing in your life. Isn't that wonderful? Maybe asking them questions to think about it, instead of wagging my finger and saying, you're not a very grateful person.
Yeah.
You always taught me, and Sam too, both of you have taught me that you ask questions and people will eventually come to that conclusion.
Let me flip this over to Sam for a minute, because I want to approach this from a different angle here when we talk about thankfulness and gratitude. Just let me ask you a couple of quick questions, Sam, to get at this in a different way. How long would you say how many hours do you spend every week working on a sermon?
I'd say between 10 and 15 hours, maybe.
10 and 15 hours, yeah. So when you take that time commitment for how long do you preach?
About 40 minutes.
About 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So you're putting in 10 to 15 hours into a 40-minute program.
Mm-hmm.
And do you expect to see people's change immediately after you preach?
If I did, I would be incredibly disappointed.
Yeah, so the whole idea of change. So should we expect people to change immediately when we think about gratitude or thankfulness and all of those kinds of things? And I think the answer is kind of obvious, but how do we deal with that? I mean, how do you deal with people who may or may not be grateful in your life, whether it be in your family, in your church, in your community? How do you deal with folks that maybe aren't as grateful maybe as you would like to see that happen?
Boy, I don't know.
We talk about this almost every day.
Yeah. I think, modeling gratitude and speaking the good and speaking out the things that you're grateful for. Like I said before, gratitude and thankfulness is contagious. Mm. So, even before I left the office, I said to the guy who works with me at the office, Peter, I said, just be thankful that you have a family that's whole and that enjoys being together. Mm. And you could just see his face light up and be like, you know what? That's a good point. Yeah. And he went home, and I hope he's, I'm thankful for that. That I have family on both sides that enjoys being together, because I spend a lot of time with folks who do not look forward to the holidays. And even when you don't look forward to being with your family, there's things that you can be thankful for. And so I think just calling out the small things, and yeah.
I think it's easy to keep turning on others. You know, we read a lot of books about counseling, and it's very. I was just talking with another a friend at church about how it's easy to read these books or listen to a sermon and thinking about, oh, hey, that person needs to hear this little tidbit. I can't wait to tell them how they should be. So I think in answering your question on how to deal with others and their ingratitude, to practice pausing before I complain about them and their ingratitude, because it would be so easy and it feels so justified to complain about people being ungrateful towards something that I've done for them, or in my high and mightiness, something the Lord's done for them.
And this is what I really wanted to get to, is this very concept that, you know, we may run into people who are ungrateful all the time, but then do they cause us to be ungrateful toward them?
Yes.
Yes. And sometimes that's true. I mean, that just happens that way.
It does.
But our responsibility, of course, is to overcome that, and gratitude being one of those key foundation stones to life that we can't really live without, because it says, hey, I'm responsible to somebody else outside of me. I'm responsible to HB every week. You know, we come in here and do this thing, and this is an important concept for me to constantly think about, which I am. I'm grateful, thankful for you.
You've had maybe out of how many shows now?
Well, 41. This is number 41.
Came here one day, and there's only one time that I asked, hey, man, what is up?
Yeah,
came in with your burden on your shoulder, and that was the only time, though.
Yeah.
But to recognize that was so important, because before the day was over, whatever it was that he was carrying, I shared it with him, and that lightened the burden on him, and I could tell he was lifted by the time we were done. 2 hours later, whatever was bothering him had kind of dissipated some.
That's nice.
But that was because caring, spiritually about your brother. If you're paying attention, you will know. If there's something urgent or something burning or something that's, people are having a problem with.
So I want to say this about UHB, honestly, and this may be something nobody's ever said to you before, but I view what you do here as pastoral work.
I do too.
And this is, well, look at you. See, we're on the same page.
I mean, I laugh about it, because if I was as serious as I was internally, without this candor that God made, this little exterior that he posted around, I'd probably be too deep for a lot of it. Because the root of where I reside spiritually is like constant. It's constant. And I was explaining to Sam, just walking in the doorway of a store or getting on the elevator, those simple things that sometimes we neglect. Your angels being near you, as they say, and they come in strangers. So if angels are out there, every stranger you come by, you should probably say hello, how you doing, and be kind and nice, because you never know who that person is that might be the person that God sent for you to have the next passageway or doorway to where I need you to go. And it has to be on you to do that. It has to be internal.
Kindness and generosity really lead us toward gratitude. For indeed, if we are thankful, we're just going to be generously open to other people, because who knows who we might meet in that respect. That really makes a huge difference.
Well, you and I.
Yeah.
Janelle brought you in, and Janelle's been a friend of mine for years. And had I just taken it as this is the guy Janelle brought on the radio show, this couldn't have manifested, to where it is now. So I just think it's great. Let's take a short break and come back. I see you've got phone calls. You got it going on up in here on Family Day at Woof and Woof Radio. And I've got my phone banging, too, because we've got people listening in that are loving it. Janice Glenn is in now and saying she loves it as well.
Great.
So we're going to come right back. Woof and Woof Radio on the Cool Group site at RadioNext.tv. RadioNext.tv, boy, gets deep between the breaks. And we're here. And the Echoes are in the studio. The Andrews.
The Andrews.
Are in there. Sam and Chelsea are in the house with their father, Dr. Mark Echo. Man, this is a beautiful, beautiful platform right here.
It is.
I'm loving
a lot of fun.
Introducing yourself to the family and the world, man. Go ahead.
That's right, yeah. So, ideas that you guys have now about Thanksgiving, gratitude, reading, quotation, something that stands out in your mind. as far as what you are interested in sharing with everybody during this holiday season?
Something that I'm learning or trying to remind myself, I think it's very easy to just be so self-focused. And I see it in myself, I see it in my friends, I see it in my daughter, my 10-month-old, just this self-focused nature, and that how that decreases gratitude, which is kind of something we've been talking about. So if you don't mind, I want to read one of my favorite Psalms. It's short, Psalm 93, that will help us all look upward, if wherever upward the Lord is. Psalm 93. The Lord reigns. He is robed in majesty. The Lord is robed. He has put on strength as his belt. Yes, the world is established. It shall never be moved. Your throne is established from of old. You are from everlasting. The floods have lifted up, O Lord. The floods have lifted up their voice. The floods lift up their roaring. Mightier than the thunders of many waters, mightier than the waves of the sea. The Lord on high is mighty. Your decrees are very trustworthy. Holiness befits your house, O Lord, forevermore.
It's a great psalm.
Yeah.
You have the kinds of opportunities being a pastor and family to really influence other people. Sam, just let me ask you this quick question about, in the pulpit, but during your day-to-day life as a pastor again. When you are preaching the word and you're looking out at the people that are listening to you, what kind of general response are you receiving from how people are looking back at you? Are they anxious, happy, accepting, receptive,
sleeping?
No, not sleeping, not at all.
I think I'm thankful. One thing I am thankful for is that we have a group of people in our church that are hungry for God's word and that love God and love His word, and so to see people just intent to be presented with Jesus week by week and to hear the gospel of Christ preached, I'm thankful for that. I see just an eagerness to grow in our people and a hunger for the word. And there's some people that are putting the pieces together and some who aren't. And we just had this young lady that came up afterwards and she was saying, that it's like that final puzzle piece came together for me this week. And I wasn't even preaching. I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that there was another brother preaching, that this girl said, it's like the gospel. The last puzzle piece was put together, and I understand it, and I believe it, and I want to get baptized. And so there's a spectrum of people who of responses, I think, but generally there's a good hunger for God's word, which I'm thankful for.
I think that really hits the nail on the head. I mean, being at your church as I've been in the past, seeing people who let me respond to the question, who really listen to you, man. I mean, your preaching's really powerful, and people respond every single week to what you have to say. I'm just genuinely impressed, not only with your preaching, but I'm really thankful, by the way, that you're my son. I just wanted to say that to everybody as well, because this is
Thanks, Dad.
This is huge. I mean, for HBU and me being dads. When we have a young daughter, we're thinking about, hey, who is this person going to marry, and so on. Man, I have the best guy that married my daughter, and I'm just really thankful about that. We just talking about this.
We were just sharing this off the break, and honestly, when you're a father of a daughter, there is no other love like it. You are in protective mode at all times, but you also understand Scripture says once she decides to take on her king, you have to relinquish her. But that doesn't mean that you're not concerned or care.
Oh, absolutely.
And to have a man in her life that you have identified to say, this guy.
Yeah.
He can be king to my princess.
Yeah.
I told you, quite frankly, and if my daughter's listening, she tunes in from time to time, she finally has a guy that I can look at and say, I could relinquish her to this guy. And that is a special feeling. It's a feeling you don't take for granted.
That's right.
Because these are lifetime moments. These are things that might not come this way again, so to speak. So we have to be thankful.
Yeah.
And but I love what Sam. One of the things that I want to ask of being a minister in the 21st century, and I talk about all the time because we're relevant, to the age and
Sure.
the generation we grew up in. And as I mentioned, spirituality, Christian walk, being taught was so it was global, or at least it was a national push. Anybody you met has some type of identification with God, with Jesus, with some type of faith. What is it like today when we do have that fraction of the population they're longing for, but they haven't had any pedigree, any kind of knowledge to understand what this walk is truly about? I was expressing to you about even the culture within the spirit of Christ in the African American community, the information being filtered down, being kind of it's slanted toward the ministers a lot of times.
Yeah.
But what is it like pastoring now in the 21st century, reaching this audience?
What is it like? I think, I'm only 32 years old, and so I am a relatively young minister, and so I can speak to where young people are at, I feel like. I mean, the constant distractions, I think that's one of the big things, is that, God wants us to live for Him and for His glory, and we're created for His glory. We're created for a relationship with Him, and to be aware of His presence in the world and in our lives if we're Christians. And there's just so many things pulling us away, so many constant distractions. Our default mode is to look at our phone or look at our Facebook rather than to look upward to the Lord, or to look people in the eyes around us. And so just teaching people to be present and to be present in fellowship with the Lord. I think also just teaching people to read the Bible. I mean, so many people, the literacy is really high in our country, but actual comprehension and understanding what you're reading and what's being preached is really, really important. And that's why, in my preaching, I just read the Bible and teach the Bible. And even in doing that, people are learning how to read the Bible for themselves, because they're saying, "Oh, okay." The best compliment I got in my preaching recently was a guy said, when I read it, I don't see what you see, but then when you preach it, I see it in the Bible. It's not like, where are you getting this from? It's this bizarro application that
so
came
now
out of nowhere.
affirmation is on the table.
Yeah, people are seeing what's in the Bible and seeing how it applies to their lives, and so that's a high compliment. So just teaching people to be present, teaching people to comprehend what they're reading in the Word.
Yeah. These are big things. I'm sitting here listening to this wonderful conversation from these young people, and I think about them as young people because
we old
young.
people.
Yeah, we're old people. That's right. It's exactly right.
Come on,
we old enough.
Yeah, that's right. But I wanted to read this statement from another old guy. This is actually a guy by the name of Cicero, who was a Roman historian, and he says this: gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but the parent of all others. So every other great virtue comes out of gratitude.
Yeah.
And when you think about when you think about other virtues, we've talked about some of those virtues. Piggyback on some of that. What are you guys seeing around you in the culture and the community that you're living in? Maybe picking up on another story or two of something that's happening around you where you see these virtues coming out of gratitude.
Oh man. I think when you realize that you have been given much, and it takes some doing in this culture to come to that conclusion. It's not, as we've been saying, it's not natural. But when I think about people in part of our church family, they're being taught from Scripture, and so they are thankful that they're being taught, and now they are seeing the fruit of that in their own life. They're seeing that they care about others. They see that they want to be generous with their, not only their money, but their time. They see that when you care for others, it takes time, it takes being loving in the way that Christ was loving, so that's sacrificial. So I do see that people are taking what they are being taught from Scripture, and they practice that in a discipleship way of, hey, let's go and come over to my house, we'll have dinner, and not only will we build this friendship, but we'll talk about the Lord, and you're growing, helping other people grow in their understanding as you grow in your understanding. And that comes from a gratitude for your salvation. I mean, when you see that you are, as we've been talking about back in Defiance, I am the neediest person I know. I am the neediest person. So when I see that I have been saved from eternal separation from God by Christ's death and resurrection, I need to be grateful, and I need to share that with other people, and that can flesh out in a lot of different ways.
This is good stuff, man.
It's kind of like we say it all the time. When you come to a revelation about something, it's almost like the alcoholic who says when he wakes up to remind himself that I have to say I'm an alcoholic to not be one. Same way when you accept Christ, every day you wake up, every minute pretty much, you have to be in touch and be appreciative of this salvation, be appreciative of this opportunity for redemption. And when you do that, you just become, it's the practice of the mindset, because if you let it lapse, me will come back to the surface. So
just waiting.
We're going to take another break, our last musical break, and then we're going to let you take this thing out, Dr. Mark.
All right.
We are here at Warp and Woof Radio. Funny thing you said, Sam, about knowledge and reading your Bible. Proverbs, the book that we preach out of, talks about wisdom and knowledge meshing. And one without the other is kind of worthless.
Yeah.
So it's just absolutely right, man. I am loving this. Dr. Mark, you hitting a home run out the park, baby. RadioNext.tv on the Cool Groove site. Warp and Woof Radio coming up to the last half hour of this great family affair. And I've been joined by Janelle Williams in the house. And Dr. Mark, this is your show. I'm just loving being here, man. Take it away.
It's been a great time. Yeah, absolutely. Janelle, thanks for coming over.
I am glad to be here. To be here. It's been a while.
It has been. Actually, just give us a quick overview of how you got invested in this whole thing. I mean, tell us about the first time we all connected here in this room, actually.
I think it goes back to you being my professor at Crossroads. I have to say this every time. With the number one question of what do I call you? I thought about that on the way over here, and it's like when I see him, I often want to say Professor or Dr. Echo. But now it's great to know that we are friends, and I can call you Mark and not feel any sort of way about that because we have developed a friendship, and from that friendship, one of our church members at Ebenezer Baptist Church had asked if I wanted to be on the radio, and I was like, no, I don't. But I know someone who's great at radio, and so I would like to introduce you to Dr. Echo. And he was like, great, you guys come over on a Saturday. And I was like, okay, just listen in. And so we came over, and from that point, it just, HB and Dr. Echo, they connected, and I didn't really have to be here. But then from that, of course, we have to mention Comenius, and I just took a day of watching on YouTube just who John Amos Comenius was in order to know whether I wanted to be a part of the board of Comenius. And so from all of that, we now have what we have established as family with HB, as he spoke about. We go far back, and then Dr. Echo and I go back, Mark and I go back. Yeah. So it was a great opportunity to just bring all of this together and then let the radio world know that we're doing something special here in Indianapolis.
Yeah, thanks so much for giving us the background to all of that. And give a shout out and some love to Pastor Shelby out there at Ebenezer.
Yes. Much love to him, who I will see in a moment. I asked him if he wanted to share anything that he was grateful for. And I just think being a pastor of 3 years, he's just seen so much within the church as well as in the community. He's very involved in the community. community. And so I think the one thing that he's grateful for, speaking on his behalf, is just the fact that God has just pushed him into a area that he just he loves. So he opened his arms to that, and he loves his people, and he loves the community, and really wants to do right by the community as well.
Just and one more thing about Pastor Shelby, and that was this wonderful presentation that you all did over there at Ebenezer with Spirit and Place a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
That was really a great time. He did great work with that.
That was awesome. Definitely a shout out to IUPUI and all of those folks that were involved there. We still have the pictures up. I mean, it's just something that's not ingrained in our heart, but we see it around us every day. Also a shout out to Pilgrim Missionary Baptist Church, because if it had not been for Pilgrim, we would not have an Ebenezer. So there was a lot of history there as well.
That's wonderful stuff. And we, living in Indianapolis, being part of a community, and then, of course, these families that we have within Indianapolis, really what we're doing here on this radio show, Warp and Woof, is we're connecting all of these different individuals, connecting these churches, connecting vocations, connecting various communities, because we just want everybody to know each other.
Absolutely.
And so the idea, the tagline, of course, from Titus 3, do good, do good, do good. We're looking for those people that are doing good. And you certainly are doing good in the community. You're at DOD. Thank you so much for your service to people who serve us.
Thank you.
Yes.
We're grateful for that.
It's a wonderful opportunity. When we talk about doing good, I just wonder where I would land after graduating with undergrad. And it just so happens I was at a conference in Texas when I got the call that I was wanted for the DOD position. And as I think about over, Veterans Day and even this holiday, I remember my mother would invite active members, service members over to our house for Thanksgiving. And so I just think about those soldiers and those men and women who have served us during this time, and I wonder where they're at. And one of the things that we've celebrated, part of DFAS, is 25 years of actually paying our active as well as our annuitants and veterans who have served our country. And so I proudly wear the banner that we proudly are serving our American heroes. I wear that every day, and I take it very serious.
I was going to save this for you, Janelle, but beginning this Friday afternoon on the Cool Groove site between 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock p.m., we have designed a show for nothing but our veterans. John Jefferson, a former veteran, is going to be hosting the show. He works for the Veterans Administration, and I was going to hook him up with you and let him know that he needs to be a guest on your show, not knowing I was going to see you today. But I do want to let you know that part of that inspiration came from the great work that you have been providing for the people who have served our country. So they need a voice, they need a platform where information can be filtered to the community about where they can get services, where they can get mental health, where they can get their benefits. All of these things where that voice has been kind of filtered and lost. And we want to make sure that some awareness on a continuum is out there. So I hope that you will be partnering with Mr. John Jefferson and helping to feed information about what we need to know as far as benefits and assistance that they can receive. So thanks for your work.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we're grateful for that. Honestly, I want to be on his program, too, because I want to sing the Marine Corps hymn. Actually, I think I've said this before on the show. That was the very first hymn I ever learned because my father was in the Corps, and so that was something that was near and dear to me. And, of course, we love our servicemen and women. We're grateful for Veterans Day, for Memorial Day, all of the things that we celebrate here in this wonderful, great country. We have so much to be thankful for. I tell my students all the time, the reason why they can live the lives they do is because the Marine Corps stands between them and the bad guys. And that's really a great thing. So thanks, Janelle, for your work at DOD and for serving those folks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So, guys, we're here in these last few minutes of this program today, and you all have some readings, some ideas. Janelle, don't hesitate to jump back in here. Do some poetry, some readings here from things that you guys have pulled out.
Well, it's interesting how ideas they come in waves. When you are either in ministry or teaching, you kind of notice that whatever you're reading, you see it everywhere else, or something like that. So I mentioned earlier that I don't read that much. I just want to say that I'm not a smarty pants. I'm not a smarty pants. I get maybe 2 hours a week to read, and so I have a bookmark in I don't know how many books. I'm ashamed that I haven't finished any of them. So when I say that I am reading, quote unquote, reading 3 books, put that in your proper context of a mom of 2 kids that barely keeps her house clean.
It's not true. It's beautiful.
Thank you, Sam. So I have been reading a few books. I lead the women's study at our church. We meet twice a month, and we're reading a book by Jen Wilkin that I suggest to everyone. It's called None Like Him, and why that's a good thing. So we just read about how God is self-sufficient, and every time we read these attributes of the Lord, you can't. When you learn about the Lord, you learn about yourself. So when you usually in this book it's showing us, okay, this is how God is, and this is how we are not, and this is how we try to be like God, but we shouldn't. And one of the things that we are reading about, God's self-sufficiency, His eternality, is that we have been made to need. Before the fall, before sin came into the world, that Adam and Eve were made to need each other and to need the Lord first and foremost. And so part of that can be, it feels like it's discouraging. We think in this culture that being needy is either, if you're a believer, sometimes you think that's a sin, or you think it's just such a terrible thing and don't express your neediness because you got it all going and you're an individual and yada yada. Anyway, so I am trying to practice that and be thankful for my neediness and where I am weak, and notice that where I am weak, the Lord is strong. And a cool thing, Sam is always bringing home books from he's, we're slight Amazon addicts when it comes to books. So he's always getting the chance to read these books because he's a pastor and he gets to read, and that's wonderful. And he'll say, what?
No,
he'll say something to me like, oh, I got to study this book for an hour or something, and I'll be like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't make you jealous like that.
Yeah.
But one of the books that he brought home was The Things of Earth by Joe Rigney. And I have just started to read it, but he has this passage on, or a chapter on, that we were created to be creatures, and that our physical bodies were made of matter, and that's a good thing and not a bad thing. And so often we treat things that were made for our good, and we see the neediness of them, like our bodies. We need food, we need water, and Joe Rigney makes the point that this points to all of our physical neediness, points to our spiritual neediness, and that is a good thing. So I was just going to read a little excerpt from his book, The Things of Earth, Treasuring God by Enjoying His Gifts. And this is from the Created to be a Creature chapter. 5.5 days of, and God saw that it was good, and now not good. God sees a missing and a gap in His creation that must be filled. But let's start with the obvious. When God says that it's not good for man to be alone, it would have been entirely inappropriate for Adam to say, "What do you mean alone? I have you, God." That's absolutely true and completely besides the point. So he goes on to talk about our need for people, right? But I actually read the wrong part, so you can jump back.
That's okay. No big deal.
But yeah, what I really wanted to read about was that he says our existence in time and space and our bodies are not a bug, it's a feature we've designed by infinite wisdom for the communication of unfathomable riches of His glory. God's not frustrated by our finitude. He is not hamstrung by our bodies. Our limitations pose no barrier to Him. As it says in Psalm 103, verse 14, He knows our frame and remembers that we are dust. He made us this way, and He thinks it was a grand idea.
And I love your tone of voice there. And I think he thinks it was a grand
idea.
That's a great thing. I just have to give a shout out to my friend and former student Katie, who's out in California listening to us here today. She just texted me. Katie, we love you. We can't wait till the next time we get to see you, hopefully in Indiana. But if I have to make the trip to California, I suppose I might do that. Katie was one of my students at Moody Bible Institute, downtown Chicago, back in the day. And Katie is a great teacher now. Looking forward to hearing great things from her in the future. Thanks so much, Katie, for texting in here this morning and hearing here in Indianapolis from somebody in California. So, Chels, thanks so much for sharing that piece. You know, now that you've admitted to everybody that you're not a smarty pants.
I'm not a smarty pants.
Yes. And, you know, Janelle, you must feel like, you know, this is a good thing, right? Because you just said that you felt like we were going way deep before, but now we're not.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that we kind of did a turn. I was wanting to be fun, and I wasn't ready to be deep. I'm like, please don't ask me deep questions and reflect on anything, because I just want to have fun. So thank you, Chelsea.
Sure.
And he thought it was a grand idea.
I'm gonna
love that phrase the rest of the day. That's great.
Well, isn't it? It's just so neat to think of. I love thinking of the Lord as a person. He is a person, and we were made in His image as people, and so He delighted in creating us. He delighted in forming our bodies to work a certain way. You know, talk about having fun. My Marilyn, 4 years old, for some reason, she can't stand going potty. It interrupts her day. It makes her so mad. And I tell her, but it's a good thing. You know, you're going potty and God made your body to do it. You can say, when you're going to the bathroom and you're on that toilet and you're annoyed, you can instead thank you, Lord, that my body works. You know, He delighted in thanking us in every single way. This is how He made it. Yeah.
Is this fun now, Janelle?
Chelsea has always brought in the fun in any type of serious. I just recall being a student, and we just would go deep. And Dr. Echo would be against the board, and all of us, we had big eyes because we just felt like it was just overwhelming. And he would mention something that you would say that we as students could relate to. It's like, true, we don't have to be smarty pants.
Yeah, right. No, you don't.
So I appreciate that. Comic relief.
Oh, that's a good thing. Yeah. Well, hey, you know, before Sam does his reading here, let me just highlight some of the things that we've talked about here today as really, really important stuff. Let me just go back to suggest something about Comenius. Again, one of the reasons why Janelle stopped by today, not only does she have the day off, which is lovely and good. Thank you for spending a little time with us, by the way.
That's really kind of
you.
Family, exactly. So one of the things that's really wonderful and good about Janelle's presence here with Comenius is that she is a board member and really promotes and highlights the things that we're doing at Comenius on the campus of IUPUI. Joined, of course, by HB, who's also on our board at Comenius. Wonderful stuff. And the concept of family goes far beyond the biological emphases, and we want to make sure to highlight those things, too. And by the way, you want to give a shout-out to the man? Your man?
Absolutely. Again, as I came over, it was getting very deep in here. And as I was getting out of the car, I had just sent a text message to my man, Aaron Howard. Shout out to him. And he sent a warm text that just said how much he appreciated me. So I'm like in tears on my way up here. So shout out to Aaron. Love you.
Well, hey, man, next time you're wanting to watch some football, I got a seat with your name on it, so you know you got your spot down there. And Janelle, of course, too. You can bring Janelle with you. That's fine too. Feel free.
Thank you for the invite, I think.
Yeah. So one of the things that's true about my house is that we have this wonderful basement where people love to come and watch football and movies and all those good things. So another great thing to be thankful for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
even Marilyn was like, let's talk about things we can do at Arlie and Saba's house, and one of the things was watch a movie with Saba.
There you go. And we have this.
You might want to explain Arlie and Saba, where those names
that's
came
true.
from.
That's true. Thank you for that. Yeah. So Arlie is the first letter of Robin's name, and Lee is her middle name. So we decided before the grandchildren were born that we wanted to name ourselves. We didn't want somebody else to name us. So, and we wanted our names to be distinctive. So the distinctiveness is obviously Arlie is quite distinctive. That can't think of anybody else has a name like that. And Saba is the Hebrew for grandfather. So unless you're living in a Jewish community, I can't imagine too many people are calling their grandfather Saba around here in Indianapolis. So that kind of stands out.
Say what?
Yeah, exactly. Say what? Yeah. Well, I wanted to go back to something that Chelsea mentioned, since we are emphasizing something about Maryland. And let's keep it on the fun level because Janelle's here, because this is really important. One of the things I tell my students every once in a while is how well designed our bodies are. You even mentioned the design. You were quoting from this book. And I tell people all the time that one of the systems of the body that gets short shrift, as far as I'm concerned, is the excretory system. I mean, if your excretory system does not function properly, we are in a world of hurt. I mean, seriously. Now, you're listening to a guy here who has had 3 kidney stone surgeries, so I know full well. There it is.
And yet you still eat the nuts.
I do. But you know what the doctors have said to me is that it's not just the nuts anymore. It can be those little seeds in the broccoli. They told me. Yeah, I know. I was just fascinated by this, so I've gone back to eating nuts now. So there it is. Maybe, I don't think this is too much information yet, but we're basically just kind of hovering around the area there. This is truly family here
We all
today.
live in tension.
That's right. So, just by the way, did Marilyn mention any movies that she actually wanted to watch while she was here, or it was just kind of a blank slate?
Yeah, she likes to, she's in a stage of saying, well, you pick, you pick. So she'll probably ask you to pick, and then she'll say no to whatever you pick. And then she'll say, but I do have a suggestion. So she probably got something in mind, but she'll have the courtesy of giving you a first thought.
Okay, good. Well, we set up this really nice thing for her on the floor in the basement, all padded with cushions and around and stuff, and nice little blanket she pulls up around her. So last time she was here, she had a great time being down there watching a movie with Saba.
She did.
That was a good thing. Well, we are coming up here toward the end of our time for this particular episode. I want to just go around the table real quick. I'm going to start with Janelle, I'll go to Sam, and then Chelsea. And each of us say something perhaps that we haven't said yet about the things that we're thankful for. Because I just sprang this on Janelle, I'll start so that she doesn't feel like, that she doesn't feel like she has to go first. She always hated that when she was in class, if I would choose. No, I didn't never call on Janelle just out of the blue. Anyway, I would like to thank the Lord for some things that probably things that people don't really think about too much. I would like to thank the Lord for the opportunity and the possibility that I have to smell great aromas. So today, when we go home, Robin's going to have been baking. She will bake this afternoon. Her wonderful pies. She's one of the best pie makers I know. And I love the fact that I can actually have the opportunity to smell good smells. And quite frankly, at Thanksgiving time, I can't imagine a better thing to be thankful for. Again, going back to Chelsea's comment about design, we are designed in a certain way. So, Janelle, tell us something you're thankful for this morning. Anything.
Great. I am thankful to the Lord for the opportunity to hear. As your mother and grandmother spoke about her salvation, and she's first off thankful for salvation. And I, too, piggybacking on that, I'm grateful for my salvation because I wouldn't know any of you. We talked about family this segment, and my family really does extend beyond just biological. And so once you become a new creation in Christ, your family just broadens. It just opens up to so many people, regardless of race, color, or what have you. And so I just thank God that I was able to hear today's broadcast first and foremost. And I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for Aaron, and I'm thankful for my church family, who I'll see here in a few moments. Dr. Eckel, I just have to say thank you from a student perspective first, because you just opened my eyes to a lot of opportunities. You pushed me forward as far as my education was concerned. And I just want to share a quote, because I knew that we would probably read from something. I have not read the book yet. I just need time to think. But I have a true story that happened to me just this week. I'm new into a new role at the DOD, and I have a coworker who's great and very knowledgeable, but was just ready for me to give an answer. Just give an answer, give an answer, give an answer. And I said, wait, I just need time to think. And so in your bookmark, it says everyone needs more time to think. Choosing how to spend our thought time is crucial. And working for the DoD, there are a lot of regulations. There are a lot of things that I do from a payroll perspective that I just don't want to mess up. So I just need time to think. So my reading for the remainder of I would say the remainder of the year will definitely be this book, just to say someone understands where I'm coming from. So again, I just want to thank you for that as well.
You're welcome. Absolutely welcome. That's one of the books that I've written. I just need time to think, and you can find it on Amazon since you guys are Amazon addicts over here. So thanks for that, Janelle. Appreciate it. Sam, what do you think?
Well, there's a lot of things I could say. The one thing that's coming to mind is just one thing that I've been reflecting on recently is how much the Lord knows what we need better than we do. We often think we know what we need and we have a great plan for our life, but the Lord knows us better than we know ourselves, and He knows what we need better than we know what we need. And so I'm just thankful that God is sovereign and in control of all things, and that I never would have planned to live in a small town in Ohio. I'm from a small town in Ohio, and I thought, I was one of those, I'm going to adventure, I'm going to escape, I'm going to go do something else and live in the city. And Chelsea and I met in Chicago, and we had Chicago fever, and we loved the city, and we thought, we're going to stay here and live here. And I still love Chicago. And I go back there, and I appreciate it. But we live in Defiance, Ohio, and I am thankful for the town that we live in, and I'm thankful that the Lord knew that would be a good place for us to live and minister and be rooted. I'm thankful to have my in-laws 2 hours away, to have my parents, Dean and Jane Andrews, 20 minutes away, and a part of our church, and my dad's an elder in our church along with me, and it's a joy to have a relatively simple life. And the Lord knew that I needed that, and He knew that my mind was not created for the complexity of the city. I'm a simple man, and so he knows our limitations. He knows what we need, and so I'm thankful for the Lord's just direction in our life. And I'm thankful to marry into a family that it brings me on TV or radio shows like this, and pushes me outside of my comfort zones. But a father-in-law and mother-in-law that love the Lord and that I learn from. And I learned how to be a good father and pastor, and I'm thankful for you guys.
Great. Thank you, Sam. Appreciate it a lot. All right, little one, you get the last word here today.
Yeah. A lot of things I could say, but something that I was just thinking about is that I'm thankful for color. Because we've had kind of a warm fall in Defiance, Ohio. And that meant that the leaves stayed on the trees longer than usual. Usually by Halloween, they're all gone, and we've raked them up, and they're gone, and, you feel like you just start to enjoy them. But this year was different. And I'm really thankful for that, because we've got a pretty yellow tree out there, we got a pretty orange-red tree out there, and just, having, I talk about Meryl all the time, because I am with her all the time. All the time. She is always on my mind. And she loves color. And she is always pointing out the color of things. And again, this goes back to being grateful for a God who made this world lovingly and with delight and gave us good gifts, even as much as aroma and color.
That's wonderful. So we've been hearing about, we've actually gone through at least 3 of the major senses that we have. Hearing, Janelle had mentioned hearing, and we have sight now about the issue of color. My comments about aroma, and of course Sam's, I guess we could have 4 here. We're talking about the concept of touch, being with people, the incarnational element of who we are and how we have been made and designed by God. This has been really great. Thank you ever so much, everybody. Janelle, thanks for coming by today.
Yeah. Very well. What a great surprise.
Really great to see you today. Glad you had the day off to do this.
Yes.
Yeah. And for those who, because we're on radio, obviously you can't see us, but you can see our pictures, and make sure to check that Janelle is the most vibrant colored person here with the concept of the lavender and purple. I just love the lavender and purple.
Yeah.
Love this stuff. So thank you for being here. Thanks, Sam and Chelsea, for being here, for the comments that you guys made today. The family celebration, we're grateful for that. We have a wonderful group coming in here in this next hour, the next 2 hours, actually. We've got 10 Point Coalition coming in. But you have been listening to RadioNext.tv at the Cool Groove site. And this is Warp and Woof Radio. We come to you every Wednesday, and that Wednesday from 10 till noon. And we are grateful to have been here to celebrate Thanksgiving with you this week. And we look forward to next week when we have Candace on the show, a sports celebrity, a sports person herself, has her own show on Radio Next. Looking forward to that next week. Until then, we'll see you. Have a great holiday.